never thought I would be able to fall in love with two people. I've seen people fall in love with more than one person. And I'm like, nope, that cannot happen. But when it does, and when you're in it, there was this point where it's like, okay, I have to stay true to who I am.
Congratulations. How are we feeling? I'm sure you're tired, but also excited. Tell me how we're feeling.
We are tired, but excited, running on adrenaline. Just really happy that we can like be out in the open now.
Yeah, seriously.
Just do like the smallest things. Like I think we're both really excited to walk through the airport together. Like that's been something that's been crossing my mind.
Yeah.
We finally get to do that today.
Right,
So.
the little things. We're looking forward to all the little things.
You bring up the airport. What are the Christmas plans? Are we going to Minnesota? What are we doing?
Hey, we're visiting family, that's for sure. So we're going to be bouncing back and forth, but it's going to be a great time.
All right, we got to go back a little bit because that's what we do. I want to start with, we saw on last week's episode, Brandon kind of pull you aside at the at the rose ceremony. Then we saw the letter after Nayte's date. Do moments like that affect your decision-making, Michelle?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think it kind of depends on how I'm feeling in the moment. When I walked into that rose ceremony, I had my decision and I was very confident about the decision I was going to make. And that is just something that I arrived on. And it wasn't necessarily at one point, like I'm very decisive once I make my decision. It's not necessarily, it can't be influenced to a certain extent, but with that, it's just, yes, I take it into consideration and everything, but also at the same time, it's, I'm always going back to what my heart feels. And, if something like that wavers your heart, then maybe you'd be making a different decision. But in that time, it didn't.
Nayte, from your perspective, do you think it's fair for, Brandon to maybe sneak in there a couple times at the end?
Honestly, at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know. I always go back to things like, can I control it or not? Like, I don't know if it doesn't really bother me. I can't control it. He is his own individual, and, he made that choice. It didn't bother me. And at the end of the day, I'm just really happy with how everything played out.
Your parents, seemed very impressed with Brandon. But then we had that lovely moment after the final rose with your moms. How quickly did it take for your parents to accept Nayte, and how did they react when you called them?
How fast did they accept Nayte? Oh, instantly. It's just such a unique situation with opening up and being vulnerable. And honestly, my brother and my dad are two of the kindest people with the biggest hearts. But as far as speaking about emotions, it's not something that they do, frequently. And with that, honestly, kind of felt right at home with Nayte. But it's like I said, there's just so many different layers of this process with the cameras and production. And it's a very quick timeline. And so, I was able to get the answers that I needed. And once I was able to get those answers, my family really trusted me with that. And they also trust that, one conversation isn't always in this high pressure moment, isn't always going to necessarily point to somebody's character. And so they have welcomed Nayte with open arms and are so happy to have him part of the family. So happy.
Do you have a moment that you knew that Nayte was the one you were going to pick, or is it just like an accumulation of a lot of things?
Nayte was always nearly like one of the strongest connections, if not the strongest connection. And what I wanted to do is I really wanted to challenge myself to make sure that I was open to everybody, because in a situation like the Bachelorette or the Bachelor, conversations can change a lot of different things, because you have this short snippet and it seems like a short conversation, but you're not talking small talk. You're not talking about colors and favorite foods. Like, you really do dive deep. And so you see those conversations and throughout the whole season change very quickly. And so I wanted to make sure that I kept myself open to the very last minute. And I did that. And then once I made my decision and, felt with where my heart was pointing me, that's where I went and did not look back.
One of the things that's unique about this show and Finding Love This Way, there's many of them, but of course one of them is, watching it back. How did you guys do that? Did you watch together? Nayte, what was the hardest part for you to watch? What was that like? Did you watch?
Yeah, no, I definitely watched. I don't know. I liked watching by myself. Whenever we were together on like a Tuesday, obviously we'd be watching together. But no, at the end of the day, I don't know if it was hard. I think like the story that was told sometimes was a little frustrating, but at the end of the day, we always had each other to kind of talk about it, laugh about it, and so it was fun the entire time.
We've been seeing more and more Bachelor or Bachelorettes, say I love you to more than one contestant and use that word. What was, Michelle, for you? Do you have any regrets about telling Brandon that you loved him? And Nayte, what was that like for you to watch that part?
I never thought I would be able to fall in love with two people. I've seen people fall in love with more than one person. And I'm like, nope, that cannot happen. But when it does, and when you're in it, there was this point where it's like, okay, I have to stay true to who I am. And you think about it, and you do have these moments where you realize you're in a TV show, and you think about, okay, if I say I love you to this person and this person, even if that's where your feelings are at, this is how people are going to react. And when it comes down to it, I can't navigate my actions based on how other people are going to react, because then, that could hold me back from making the right decision. And so in that moment, I was very open to both of those relationships. Those were feelings that I was feeling. Does that make it a little bit harder for Nayte to watch back? Yeah, it does. And that's definitely where our communication piece comes in, with having to navigate through that, because it's not an easy situation, and it's such a different situation, and one that a lot of people can't necessarily relate to. And so it was just, that piece was truly just me staying true to what I was feeling, which is what I promised when I accepted the role as Bachelorette.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like something that Michelle said, like she can never see herself falling in love with two people, and I think that like in the real world or whatever outside of the show, I think that is a legitimate statement, because you would never really put yourself in a position to fall in love with more than one person, or at least you shouldn't, right? But like when you're in this environment, like that's literally something that can happen, and it did happen. I can feel however I felt about it, but at the end of the day, like you kind of gotta just remind yourself, like, hey, like this environment, like things happen. This isn't, now that this is done, we're back into the real world, and that's something that's behind us. Now it's just her and I against the world, right? So it can only bother you so much. I get to wake up next to Michelle for the rest of my life, so
Yeah, to go along with that, Nayte, I feel like people may have unfairly possibly judged you for maybe not being the most profound speaker or perfect communicator. I don't know who is. But how do you respond to that? Or critics who maybe make assumptions about you and say, he's now lying about never being in love before. Yeah. He's just saying what she wants to hear. Like, how does that make you feel? And how do you respond to that?
Of course, it's a little annoying, right? At the end of the day, it is just noise. It is just fluff. But at the end of the day, I know who I am. Michelle knows who I am. Michelle was able to see me for me so early on. And that's really all that matters, right? If you think that I'm just saying things to say things, hey, that's your opinion. I know that what I was saying was me just doing my best at trying to explain what was going on inside, with all these new feelings and amazing feelings and exciting feelings. And, maybe I'm not the best at expressing myself, but Michelle got the point. So that's what matters.
That's right. And Michelle, would you say something similar to anyone who says you're missing quote unquote red flags or whatever you want to call them based on what people saw?
Yeah, obviously there's this entire journey, and then it's compacted into episodes, and you do have a little bit of this background information, and you were there, and it's just more of this thing where you kind of understand, regardless of what you choose or the decisions you make, you're not going to be able to please everybody. And that's part of dating in the public eye. Yeah. And so, this man was not really smooth with his words, but if he was smooth with his words, then it's a red flag, because he's, a smooth talker. So it's just, it is what it is. And as long as you understand that, and as long as like Nayte knows that I understand him. We kind of are like, we've learned how to communicate. We will continue to learn how to communicate. And our families and our close friends know exactly who we are. And so going into that, I think that's just kind of what I choose to focus on.
When are we wedding? When are we wedding planning? What's the status? Are we thinking long engagement? Are we thinking short engagement? I know we're going to Minnesota. What's going on?
Hey, we're thinking summertime in the near future. We'll put it that way.
Wow. Okay. Last question, real quick. There was a moment in the trailer where it seems like someone is accusing you of being an actor, Nayte. We never saw it. Can you tell me anything about what happened there?
You know what? I don't know if we're allowed
I don't think we know what happens. Right? We have just as much information as everybody else.
No. I'm not sure who he was talking to. We'll put it that way.
All right. I had to ask. Congratulations, you guys. I can't wait to watch you, you flourish after the show.
Thank you.
Have a great one.